And
Oh, is it a MASH note? Okay, we are going to get to all of these.
and but as an example, Concord, New Hampshire, northern parts of New England, snowiest winter,
terrible winter,
snowiest winter ever, and the
point of
ski
view.
areas are loving it. Record amounts of snow.
Right.
Cold in Alaska, so this is a classic winter where, because of the ocean changes, ocean currents in the Pacific, we are seeing the downstream effects. And as an example, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, you had the oceanographers looking at these things and the meteorologists looking at these things, and they didn't see a particular great connection. Now we know how linked these many, many things are. So seasonal forecasts will get issued based on, is the Pacific Ocean colder or warmer than average?
Yeah.
And the more, I think that's one of the critical things going forward, is the more research, the more that's understood about these linkages, the better then the decisions can be made about how do we adjust to this.
The bigger issues too, more than just whether we're having a warm winter or a cool summer, is what's happening with the ice caps, which I don't know that I fully understand, but they are in fact melting.
Well, the Arctic ice, which is different than Antarctic because there's no land there,
Right.
was at did go to a minimum, and now it's rapidly recovered for the extent of it. And it's interesting, some recent studies have said, well, it's not necessarily all because of warmer weather in the Arctic, but maybe the wind patterns have changed, which have been moving a lot of the Arctic ice through Greenland and so forth. And so some of the serious scientists that working in this field, the way science works is someone will come up with a conclusion in a study, and then it gets tested. Others will look at it and say, maybe come to a little bit different conclusion. So it's an incremental, slow process, and maybe a headline issued by NASA or a headline issued by NOAA is not the definitive word on the research on that, because it has to be looked at. The issue of hurricanes is global change, global warming, leading to more intense hurricanes. Jury is out. There are other serious researchers looking at even the number. Doesn't seem to have an impact.
But, well, because do we measure hurricanes by their seriousness or the devastation they cause? Because you can have a hurricane that may not be a particularly intense hurricane, but depending on where and how it hits and the vulnerability of the community, it can be utterly devastating.
We remember in the 50s, we were into a pattern with a lot of hurricanes coming up the East Coast. Carol and did a tremendous...
well, you could have picked another name. No, that's okay. I can take it.
Well, it was Cape Cod. It wasn't Washington.
I can take it. I know.
But it was into a pattern which is still not fully understood, why we tend to get these cycles of more hurricanes coming up the East Coast or into the Gulf, and then some, as this past year, a lot out in the middle part of the Atlantic. We have satellites, we have all sorts of reports that can then pick a hurricane or a storm that maybe lasts 2 days that years ago nobody knew about.
This year, didn't we have a hurricane in November or December? Or we had a really late hurricane.
We've had late ones. We've had a couple in January.
Do you ever see anything in that? Do you see that happening and you think, oh, well, this means whatever?
Singularity, and the trick is,
it can just happen.
Nature's like this, and the weather's like this, and it goes all over.
Yeah.
You have one, but what is the long-term trend? And that's the trick. That's the key. Is we know there are natural influences, the solar changes, volcanoes, land use, but how are you going to sort out all of that? Air quality, air pollution. There's an idea that because of all of the haze out there and some of the pollutants, they're maybe dimming the globe a bit and reflecting more sunlight, which may be counteracting some of the other radiative forcings from carbon dioxide. So it's not a simple thing.
Well, but you do it well. But I want to talk about the uniqueness of Washington in return to weather. But first of all,
and how I blow so many forecasts a year.
But first of all, I've traveled all across the country. I've done it by car and back again, and we all travel. I've never been anywhere where the weather forecasting is like it is in Washington. I've never.
You mean that good?
Oh, this is no. I mean it. Well, I'm a weather, but you know, you're in a city and you're ready to get that forecast like we get in DC, and you turn on the TV and they say it's going to be this and that, and they're done with the guy. Is it is it something about the stations here or the people who come here to do weather or our weather, or is it something about the population here? But why is our weather so compulsive and obsessive?
Well,
I mean, I think that's a good thing.
There's an idea that we control the universe. And that anything that upsets our daily schedule of making these life-changing decisions, especially on Capitol Hill, will interfere with our day-to-day activities. So, obviously the weather and whether I have to get up earlier to do my becomes important. But we're fortunate, for at least for the way I do things and the way I love to do things.
It's got to be the best place to do your job.
It's the best place. You have a very, very informed public, higher people that have backgrounds in engineering and sciences that are interested in it. And also, after I've been here 27 years and thought I would wanted to be a meteorologist when I was 12 years old. So
that's so cool.
I mean, how can you have a better career than have a hobby, and here you are having fun with it every day? But the advances and what we're able to do to help people make better decisions has been, and seeing the advances in my science, and then the challenges, how do we effectively communicate what we know so that people know, relate to it and can make a decision based on what they think is really good information. If I made the perfect forecast, and I've told this to colleagues in the Weather Service, if I make the perfect forecast and don't communicate that effectively, and the person on the receiving end says, wait a second, I'm not sure what's going to happen. It's a waste. It's a waste. It's the terrible forecast. The same way with any information with people that have to make a decision based on information.
But we both agree. We've got great weather forecasting here. We've got great
and all of the other stations.
Why don't we, as a culture in Washington, adapt to it better?
I think we have.
Oh, well, come on! A half an inch of snow, and we're all like, we closed the schools last week because it got wet.
Well, they had extra snow days.
Yeah, but no, the children weren't complaining, but we never adapt. It's sort of like the way we are about snow is the way LA is about rain. I mean, you get the feeling that everybody's taking their hands off the wheel. I have no control. I can't.
I think we're doing better. I mean, I mean, there was as much salt on the streets last week as there was ice.
That just means the city. We are. Actually, I did notice that the streets are getting salted. That is a significant change.
And I think how many are looking for a big snowstorm yet? I mean, I think people, see,
have one. It's always not fun to have one. Of course,
so there are many disappointed people that we haven't had a 12-inch snowstorm yet. So I think it's again anything that
I like the 18 to 20-inch storms.
Well, there
I like it just shut down.
When I park my old Bronco at the end of my driveway, my neighbors get very upset because they know that this is an indication that that I've got to get out
with a webcam on your car.
But I think we are getting a bit better.
I like the snowstorms that come up from the south as opposed to the ones that come from the west. Why is that?
Well, it has to be in Washington, and it really is fun and challenging because we are right on that border of the warm air to the south, cold air to the north, and all of those have to come together just right to give us the big snow producers. At the same time, we'll have a big snow producer here in Norfolk, and they have 5 inches of rain, and it'll be 60 degrees.
But it seems to be when the moisture is coming up from the Gulf and the cold air is coming, then we get real snow.
Yeah, it's like people will say, and we get into later on, and we have thunderstorms come through and tropical air and 3 inches of rain, and they'll say, well, if that had all been snow, how much snow would it have been? But you wouldn't have the same atmospheric conditions that would produce that. So.
Did we used to get tornadoes the way we get them now?
We get more, actually.
I know.
We're tending to get
why is that?
Well, we have much superior instruments to detect them, Doppler radar. So they're detectable earlier, and even though they may touch down in a field and then come back up, they're recorded as tornadoes. So the number, if you go into...
so we were always getting them, or just now?
We were always getting them. I don't think we're getting more. We're seeing more. More people are living in Oklahoma. More people are living in Arkansas. More people are affected by them. So indeed, the number is increasing with the population.
But how about here in the Washington area? It seems to me that we get... I don't remember
we get more warnings.
More warnings.
We get more warnings, and the philosophy...
Basically, you're saying nothing's changed.
I don't think anything has dramatically changed.
But